Is Matthew Stafford the 49ers' ideal target this offseason? I ask this because his name's been thrown around a little bit. Steve Young mentioned him. A lot of guys saying he'd be perfect for really the 49ers. His contract is cheaper for the Niners than for the Lions if they get rid of him, if they trade. And I was just watching him last night because I was trying to take a look at Trubisky, and we'll talk about him later. But Matthew Stafford, my goodness, he is definitely in his prime right now. Never been better than what he is right now. So yeah, that's the backdrop. Is he the ideal target, all things considered?
I think Stafford would be great in this offense, but I don't see. I think Jack's going to say something similar. The realness of Stafford being traded over to the 49ers, just because before the season, the Lions ownership told Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn that they had to win this year. They had a good roster. They needed to make the playoffs this year. Once it was pretty much a lock, they weren't going to make the playoffs. They fired those two guys. I'm not sure of the possibility of who they hired. They don't want to win right away. And if there is that pressure on the new coach to win right away, you don't necessarily want to trade your veteran quarterback that knows the system and knows everything to draft a quarterback. But if it is a guy that they're telling they can have a lot of time to rebuild, like Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, then maybe you do move on from Stafford in that sense. But I just don't think Stafford gets traded if they have the same pressure that Matt Patricia did this year.
I would absolutely love to have Matthew Stafford on the 49ers. I think he'd be a tremendous pickup. And I get why everybody's going, he's really, everybody in 49er Nation is all over this guy. And of course, he'd be great to have on the roster next year. I just don't see it happening. I don't see why Detroit would want to move on from him. That doesn't make sense, especially with a new coach coming in, why a new coach would want to take that job if they're going to be getting rid of the franchise quarterback. And on the other side too, his contract is going to be in the neighborhood about $20 million for next year, which is a little bit less than what you're spending on Garoppolo. But at the same time, who are you going to get rid of in order to bring him in? Are you
left tackle?
Are we rolling with Sean Coleman at left tackle next year? Those are the things to really think about.
Yeah, Matt Stafford's good, but he's not Steve Young. I mean, he would struggle behind this offensive line as well. I do think that he might be the ideal target in the sense that he's really freaking good. He's in his prime. He's probably worth the money that the Niners would have to pay him. And I kind of look at him when I see like a little bit of like, we keep throwing John Elway out there. I see John Elway career trajectory in the sense that kind of on a middling team for a long time, held him back. Numbers aren't great, but at the end, in his mid-30s, if someone could just give this guy a freaking run game and a play action game, he could have an MVP season late, and win a Super Bowl like John Elway. But again, why would they trade him? I mean, I guess if they could trade him straight up for like the 5th pick in the draft and take, whichever young quarterback they say they love some quarterback and they want to have a young guy who's cheaper and get picks for Stafford, great. But the Niners can't offer that. They can't offer a top 10 pick. I just don't see why the Lions would trade Stafford for a mid pick. Because you'd have to use that to take a quarterback. They don't have anyone they've been developing. You're going to trade Stafford for what? Kyle Trask? Not going to happen. So maybe they would trade Matthew Stafford, but it would be for like 3 first-round picks. It would be for a huge haul. It wouldn't be for whatever the Niners could give him. So keep dreaming.
Yeah, and on top of that, Stafford's good, but what happens if you bring him into this system, into this organization with all the guys that are going to have to leave? You're turning the 49ers into the Lions. Look at the reason why the Lions have been where they are. It's not because they have a really good quarterback. They just don't have the ability to get the guys around them. You bring him to the 49ers, and you're looking at kind of a similar situation. You got to remember, there's no secondary next year.
That's true. There's no secondary. Now, the one thing is, on the Lions, they gave him like this $70 million signing bonus, and that's prorated through the contract. So he's about $10 million more per season. $10 million more expensive per season for them than for the Niners. But still, when the cap goes down next year, $20 million is going to be about 13%. You're pushing it right there. You're pushing it. And if you could get similar production, you're not going to get similar talent because he's extremely talented. But if he's not going to put up demonstrably better numbers than someone who you could pay $2 million, $3 million, then why are you doing this? What's the point? Especially when you have no secondary and no offensive line.
Yeah.
So good point. I mean, it's an interesting topic. Vish says Stafford has a player option. What if he wants out? well, that would tank his value, and then maybe the Niners can get him for a 3rd round pick. But then still, you got to worry about, okay, great, you got Matt Stafford, you didn't give up a 1st round pick, but you got no offensive line, no secondary. What's the plan there? Maybe they could do it, maybe not. That's where Parag Marath would have to get.
Yeah, there would be one other thing too, and this is kind of a little bit of a funny comment, but I think it'd really be funny based on some of the things that Stafford's wife has been saying on social media in the last month or so to see them come to California.
Good point.
If she thinks it's so bad in Michigan, bring her out to California.
Yeah, she acts like she lives in the USSR, right?
Yeah,
that's her. She keeps going on rants about how there's no freedom anymore, no liberty. Hey, she's gonna have to go to the whatever sensitivity training class Nick Bosa went to. I really like San Francisco. No, I was
just with Stafford, I just feel like if he was a free agent, I think there'd be a lot of teams interested in him, and I don't know if the 49ers necessarily would be his top choice. If they gave him the most money, he would probably take that. But if Dallas trades Dak Prescott, he might want to go play for his hometown team, that type of situation. Like, you never know with Stafford. I think there'd be a lot of teams wanting to win now interested. What about New England? New England would definitely be interested too, in my opinion.
Hell yeah. I mean, what team wouldn't be interested? I really think he has Hall of Fame level talent. And if someone could just put a freaking run game around. And the thing about run game is it's not expensive. You can get undrafted guys. It's a lot about your scheme and your offensive coordinator. It's what Mike did for John Elway. It's what he did for Steve Young. You think someone could do it for Stafford, but it's probably going to be me and Robert Saleh next year. Probably going to be the two of us, because he's already promised that I could be the offensive coordinator for the Lions. I'm extremely qualified. So I think I'm going to hold on to Stafford and see what I can do.